What's going on, people? Nora, you want to sit? You want to chill? You want to hang? You want to hang out? Well, I was raised off on Route 3, out past where the blacktop is. We walked to church on Sunday morning and raced barefoot back to Johnson's fence. That's where I first saw Mary, on that roadside picking blackberries. That summer I turned a corner in my soul down that red dirt road. It's where I drank my first beer. It's where I found Jesus. Where I wrecked my first car, I tore it all to pieces. I learned the path to heaven is full of sinners and believers. I learned that happiness on earth ain't just for high achievers. I've learned, I've come to know there's life at both ends of that red dirt road. What's up, everybody? Who we got with us today? All right. Brett, first one to subscribe here, but what I see. What's up, man? Let some people get on here for a little bit. We're going to have some fun on the keyboard today. Thanks, CreatiVets, for hosting this thing. What's going on, everybody? How's your day going? Y'all eat lunch yet, or wherever you're at? It's 1 o'clock here in Nashville. We're gonna have some fun today on the keyboard. Appreciate CreatiVets for having me. My name's Eric Burgett. We'll let some more folks join us. Where's everybody from? Texas. Awesome. I was starting some things off with one of my favorite artists out there, Brooks and Dunn. One of my favorite songs ever to play is Red Dirt Road. I know we got some red dirt down in Texas. Is that right? right, folks. Welcome to the CreatiVets live workshops. I love what they're doing. I think this is awesome. My name's Eric Burgett. I'm based out of Nashville, Tennessee. I've been here for a little over 7 years now and been pursuing music and been doing a lot of things music-wise in this town, and I'm proud to be doing it full time. I grew up in a small farm town in central Illinois by the name of Latham, Illinois, and I wrote a song about that town that I'll sing here in just a little bit. But yeah, I've been in Nashville for 7 years. Moved to town, started writing, and I've always been kind of on the road singing and playing for almost, much of my last 10 or 12 years. But yeah, grew up in a little farm town, started playing piano in church, taking piano lessons at a young age. I grew up on a lot of folks like Billy Joel, Phil Vassar, one of my favorite country artists, songwriter, great triple threat musician, all over. I listened to a lot of Ronnie Millsap, even some guys like Bruce Hornsby, and later on Ben Folds, rocking the piano. Was a big fan of that. But country music, I was always listening to on the tractor with my dad. And it's funny, all the things that I've done over the past 7 years have led me to doing things like this, like teaching. And especially now we're getting used to the virtual way of teaching, so I'm happy to be here with y'all with CreatiVets. And I first got involved with CreatiVets. First off, I met my buddy Brett Gillen, who's part of CreatiVets, been part of it for a while. He's actually an Illinois boy too, like me. And later on I met Mr. Richard Casper, and they actually had me, this last January, they had me go down to Southern Ground to write with some vets down there. And I tell you, it was such an eye-opening experience, and meeting folks, meeting veterans and who have served this great country, and hearing their stories, and where they're from and what they've accomplished so far being part of this CreatiVets program. It's been really cool. So I'm happy to be another part of another thing with y'all. So thank you, CreatiVets, for having me. Those of y'all who are joining us, my name's Eric Burgett, based in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm glad we can all kind of hang out via, our sources here from the comfort of our own homes. My dog's just chilling back there. My dog, Nora. Nora, what's up? Can you see everybody? Nora, what's up? Hope y'all don't mind her hanging out. Got any questions y'all have, please ask away. We're going to be getting into some, what I call easy keysy. We're going to spend some time today. I'm going to introduce some riffs on the keyboard that y'all can, learn at home. I know y'all can always come back to this video and watch it and relearn what I'm about to instruct. But I grew up on a lot of country music, country piano. My parents owned a bar called the Corn Crib right off Route 121 in Latham, Illinois, and we had an old upright piano that I played during the dinner hours, and I would make tips, pay for gas, pay for a farm hat here and there. But I was taking piano lessons. I think the earliest I remember was like the age of 5. I was taking formal piano lessons. And in a sense, I was just kind of taken after my older brother. I started playing by ear before I got enrolled in piano lessons. But one of the first tunes I learned was, let me show the keyboard. I'm trying to use this second viewing option. Y'all can see what I'm playing. But y'all remember this tune? It's an old Beach Boys tune called Come Go With Me. And I think my brother played it, and I was like, man, I want to do that. So I started plunking away at the keys and learning this bass line, which, you know, a lot of the left-handed stuff you hear in piano, it's the basis of everything a lot of times because that bass line is so important. And we're going to be going over some of that here too. But yeah, I ended up taking piano lessons from the age of 5 till about going into college, and I auditioned for college and got in and eventually got my piano performance degree. At the same time, I was playing with my country band at different bars around town where I went to college, Millikan University, represent. And then I moved to Nashville. So I was doing all this classical playing. I learned to read sheet music and what we call lead sheets, and y'all are lead sheets, reading Nashville number charts, and which led me to, you know, playing in some studio sessions. And you know, I wound up going to grad school at Belmont University where I teach part-time, and I'm lucky to be a part of that campus community, and it's great campus for music, and a lot of folks have come out of there. It's really great to know some of those folks. So y'all, any questions you have, you can just fire away and I'll answer as I go, but I'm gonna start off with some piano basics. Okay, we're calling this session easy keysy. And what I want to start out with first is introducing the piano and, you know, a little history of the piano. Do y'all know how many keys are on a standard piano? Anybody want to take a guess? Anybody know? We got 88 keys. 88 keys. All right. Yeah. So starting out, a lot of y'all probably know some of this stuff, but if y'all want to kind of hang tight as I review some things or introduce some things to you, we have the keyboard layout like this. We have to the left of the 2 black keys, as you can see on the keyboard, we have C. All right, and then from there we go to C sharp, to D, to D sharp. So when you go up to the black keys, when you raise what we call the white key, like G, to the next key over to the right, that's G sharp, right? If we're lowering a note, it's flatted. All right, so G to this would be F or G flat. All right, D to here would be D flat. Okay, we could call it either C sharp or D flat, right? So what you have here is your C major scale. Okay, just going over some basics here before we jump into playing chords and showing y'all some of those tricks that you can use in your own playing, in your songwriting, all that good stuff. All right, so if you're at a piano, play with me. If you're not, you can always watch back at this video and play with me there. Okay, we'll go C, all right, up to D. E, we're just playing all the white keys. F, G, A, B, C. All right, if you want to get technical with the fingering, we're going to start on our thumb with our 1 on C, and then to our D with our 2, 3 on E, cross thumb under to F, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the top. And that's the what we call the correct official fingering for C major scale, right? And left hand, let's go over the fingering. We have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So we go pinky and then all the way to the thumb, cross 3, So that's your fingering for a C major scale. All right. Some of y'all may know that. Some of y'all may not. If you want to watch back of this video, it's going to be posted on the CreatiVets page. You can always rewind and watch it. All right. Let's take a look at what the notation looks like of C major scale. All right. So there you have the C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And what those numbers are underneath, that just tells you what the number of the specific note is in the scale. If y'all are familiar with Nashville number charts, you're kind of going to go off, the same thing, depending on what key you're in, right? So in the key of C major, if you're in the key of C major, we just went over the notes, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Your first chord is C major, all right? That's our one chord, all right? I'm going to play hands together just to show you, what fingering I use and how to find the notes on the keyboard, all right? Then we're going to get into chord progressions, and then we're going to get into the fun stuff, all right? So we have C major, y'all, all right? Our 2, remember what our 2 is. I'm going to bring that scale back up. All right. So we have our scale, and you can see my fingers on my keyboard. There might be a slight delay just because we're dealing with 2 cameras over the internet. All right. So we have, let's see, C, D, E, F, G. There's our 1, y'all. The chord consists of 3 notes, the C major chord. We have C, E, and G. All right. Our 2 chord. All right. Look at the scale. In that image over to the left, we have D. All right. And we're only dealing with white notes because that's what our key of C major works with. All right, all white keys. No sharps or flats like we went over earlier. No sharps or flats. All right. Here's our 2 chord. We have D, F, and A. All right. E minor is our 3rd chord. All right. F major, F, A, C. G major, G, B, D. A minor, A, C, E. And then this 7th chord that we're dealing with, I won't go into it in detail, but it's called diminished, all right? It's a B diminished chord, all right? And then we're back to our 1. All right, so there's your layout of our chords of C major. Okay? And what I want to do now is kind of take you through a chord progression, a simple chord progression in the key of C major. And then we can all play along with it. And then we might go over a few tunes that use that chord progression, right? Let's go to our 1 chord. All right. And I'm going to make this video larger over here so y'all can kind of see. All right. We have our C chord. All right. C, E, G. All right. If you have any questions along the way, just, fire them away on the side messenger, and we're going to, if you have any questions about clarification or anything. So we have C major. All right. G major. G, B, D. All right. So we go back from C to G. All right. A, C, E, A minor, and F major, F, A, C. Let's go through each of those chords again. We have C major, G major, A minor, F major. Now, if we're going to revert back to what we were talking about earlier, the Nashville number system, let's call out the numbers associated with each of these chords. We're in the key of C major, so that's our 1. That's our basis for everything right now. 1. All right, think up that scale. All right. Think up the scale to what this next chord is. We have 1, which is C. G major, that is our 5th. That's our 5 chord. All right. We go up to our 6th chord, which is A minor. And then down to our F major chord. And what number is that? That's 4. All right. So there you have it, folks. There's our chord progression we're going to work with for the time being. All right. First off, what I like to do if I'm trying to put a chord progression into action, I like to try to play the chord progression in as many different tempos, speeds, or in as many different rhythms as I can, just to kind of get anchored down into the chord progression. All right, so here's what I do first. Kind of hints at like a rock kind of thing. All right, y'all with me? Now I'm going to switch things up. I'm going to move a little quicker now that we know the chord progression. So we're going to start adding in left hand. All right, just the bass notes, which is the bottom note of each of those chords we're playing, right? So we go from C and C, which is our 1, to our 5, G, A, 6, 4, right? Cool, y'all. With that, we're going to play the full chord that we just learned in the right hand. And here's our 5, 6, 4. All right. So that's the chord progression we're working with. Okay, so that's our basis. That's our basis of this. Let's play a little bit of wagon wheel for you to kind of give you a chance to hear that in context. All right, let's work with some of these left hand rhythms. All right, I was just kind of doing what we call quarter notes, right? And sorry if there's a slight delay on your screen, but we're simply just just straight to the beat, right? We call what this interval, the distance between these two notes, we call this an octave, right? It spans 8 notes, right? All these do. All right. If I were to go like this would be the span of a 5th, right? So we're just working with octaves, all right? And I had a question. How do you know when to throw in that E flat? Is a blues note always the 3rd? If you're in, like, so right now we're in C major. Let's go back to where exactly I threw that E flat in, okay? Let's see. So right here, I threw in this E flat going to the 3rd. if you're like on a if you're on a 1 chord and you want to try to kind of bluesify it up, jazz it up a little bit, you can almost always take this chord, take a full C major chord, the 1, 3, 5, the C, E, and G, make it minor, lowering the 3rd. I haven't quite gone over this yet, but to make a chord minor, you lower it from the major by lowering the 3rd. Okay? Now what you can do is slide from that middle note to the note next door to make it major again. Alright? Alright? In a way, it's sort of what we call hammering a note. Alright? Alright? And then I went to what we call an inversion of an F major chord. If you can see that. See how this is how we built the F major chord to begin with. I put this C down below. Alright? And I went from essentially a C major chord to an F major chord in that inversion, while using this slide from E flat to E. Alright? And that typically comes from what we call a blues scale. Alright? Let me kind of go over that blues scale a little bit, y'all. I'm kind of shifting gears, but the C major blues scale. Let's do this. We go from C to E flat to F sharp to G to B flat. And that's your C blues scale. If you wanted to play that blues scale on G, same sort of pattern. Alright? Keep in mind, we're kind of changing keys too, but you're always going to have this, the 1, the flat 3, which in this case is B flat, right? Because we're on G now. The 4, right? So we have 1, flat 3, 4, sharp 4, 5. Then we have the 7, the flat 7th. All right. So that's sort of what we pull from when adding in these blues notes. Okay. And then when I did this, I added this F sharp into this chord. Furthermore, that F sharp was part of that blues scale, as was the B flat. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Alright. Now, we're going to be using some of those blues tricks in a very simple tune that I want to teach to y'all. Folsom Prison Blues by Johnny Cash. Alright? So we're gonna work with some of those chords actually that we started out with. The 1, the 4, and the 5. Alright, let me play a little bit of the Johnny Cash for you. Well, I hear that train coming, it's rolling around the bend. I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. Well, I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging on. Okay, we'll go that far. So if you want to solo, which we'll go over that here too. If you want to solo over, whatever key you're in, make sure you know that major scale of that key you're in. Okay, we're gonna stay in C major because that's kind of what I want to focus on today. But my goal for you is that you will, go to G major, go to D major, go to A major. Learn those scales and use what I'm teaching you today as, part of your toolbox, okay? And like I said, you can always come back here and rewatch this video, all right? So we're going to continue with Folsom Prison Blues and what that chord progression is. Real quick, let's review what key we're in, and let's review the scale. We have C major, so we have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. All right? Those are our notes of our C major scale. All right? And if you want a solo in the key of C major, it is very important to know the scale that's associated with that key. Okay? I'm going to go over some different ways you can come up with melodies and what we call improvisation ideas. Okay? If y'all don't know the term improvisation, it literally means off the cuff, on the spot, right? And we all want to learn to make up something, right? We all love creating, and that's why we're here. So I'd love for you to kind of take this. You already are home. I'd say take it home, but use this material as part of your toolbox and come up with your own ideas. And I want to see them. You can always look me up on Instagram or Facebook. Send them my way. Tag me in them. I'd love to see what y'all come up with. All right. Chord progression. Let me play through the chord progression of Folsom Prison Blues first. And think about what those numbers are going to be based on what we just talked about with the notes of the C major scale. Okay? We start on the 1 first. All right? I'll give you that. Here we go. Here's the next chord change. All right, let's go that far. Go that far. It's simply between the 1 and the 4. All right. So chords, we're gonna go over just what I call the skeleton of the chord progression, and that's just this. All right. Then moving to the 4. All right. It is a little. You're kind of playing the chord for an elongated, time, but let's count. I hear that train coming. It's rolling. You all can sing along with this too. What I'm going to show you is just different ways to spice it up. Okay, from doing this, we're just kind of going boom, chuck, boom, chuck, boom, chuck, boom, chuck. But how about we do something like using that blues note, that lowered third, that flat third. And use that slide method I talked to y'all about. It's more like 1, 2, and 1, 2, and 1, 2, and 1, 2, and. All right, let's go that far. Going to the F major chord now. So now we're thinking in terms of F, right? F blues scale, even though we're in the key of C major and we're playing an F major chord, we want to bluesify that note, right? All right. Y'all with me? So we have the C major. All right, another way you could do this is make that slide happen quicker by going. All right, it's kind of a rockabilly way to play it. And if you want to, sometimes I think of what a guitar might do. with those what we call like the hammer notes. You hear guitars do this sort of thing all the time. You know, that's what we call like that hammer. It's like you hammer down on the note you actually want to go to, but you use this first note as sort of a color tone, is what we call it. So that's what that blues note is doing. All right. Let's talk about left hand rhythms. All right. I'm big on the left hand rhythms, especially the boogie woogie stuff. You know, you hear a lot of this going on in like Jerry Lee Lewis. You know. Here we go to the F. You know, that sort of thing going on. All right. That was Great Balls of Fire by the killer himself, Jerry Lee Lewis. All right. So, left hand. Let's stay on the 1, the C. Instead of playing this octave, we're going to go C to G. We're going to play C and G together. This is what we call a fifth, okay? The interval of a fifth. An interval is the distance between two notes, all right? Sort of what we've been talking about this whole while, right? We have the 1 to the 5 numbers, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Intervals, distance between the notes, all right? So here's our fifth. Now watch what I do. I'm going from the C and G to the C and A, all right? It sort of gives this walking pattern, okay? It's a boogie woogie pattern, but we go from a fifth to, what's this, y'all? A sixth, right? And you're gonna notice I'm going to add in some of those blues notes along the way. So I'm going from a fifth to a sixth to that flat seventh, right? I'll go a little slower. And I'm still adding in this slide in the right hand. And if you notice, sometimes I'm adding in this F major chord. F major chord, that inversion that I talked about earlier, matches sort of what I'm doing in the left hand. We have the A, and we have the A here. It sort of mirrors what you might do right? So we have both hands sort of mirroring each other. Alright? I hear that train a-comin', it's rolling around the bend. I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. Well, okay, we're gonna go on to the F major. Stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging. Alright, I played exactly what I was doing on C, on F now. Okay, so we're just transferring that pattern. Alright. Alright, let's go over another left hand pattern, a boogie woogie pattern that you've heard a lot. Alright, I'm gonna slow it down. We have C, the 1, E, which is the 3rd, talking numbers again, right? The 6th. Here's our flatted 7th, part of that blues scale. All right. Furthermore, if I block these first 3 notes, what do we have? We have a C major chord, right? All right, and then I've added that B flat in there. Together, this is what we would call a C dominant 7th chord, all right? C flatted 7th chord, all right? Cool? So, let's break up that chord. We have C, E, G, A, B flat, A, G, E, C. All right? Now what we're doing is breaking each of these up, going from bottom to top, letting the pinky sort of drive the whole thing, and the thumb falls into place an octave above. All right. Now let's practice up in our speed. Think we can take it to F. Still have that flatted 7th in there. And back to the 1, right? We're sort of following that same chord progression as we did in Folsom Prison, all right? I don't know if you would play Folsom Prison like, well, I hear that train coming. It's coming around the bend. It's rolling around the bend. But there's a lot of boogie woogie tunes that you could use over top, okay? You could even take this chord progression that we learned, that C major chord in the right hand, just keep wailing away on it, okay? Important thing is, and because I teach a lot of technique to college students, and making sure you have different ways not to damage your wrists, or make sure that you have the least amount of tension as possible. You want no tension, but when you play this, you're gonna feel a little bit of tightness in your wrist, all right? Like right here, you're gonna feel a little bit of tightness, but keep your arm as still as you can, okay? We don't want any of this, if that makes sense. All right? Left hand, you want to keep your wrist and your arm just sort of moving horizontally. Try to keep the vertical movement as small as possible, all right? Let's see. So, real quick, there's our other boogie woogie pattern. So we've done this. Fingering wise, you notice I'm using 2 to the thumb. You could also go thumb to thumb. Alright, if you want. I feel like this is easier because you have a free finger to go to, and that helps promote quicker tempos too, okay? Alrighty, and then we went over this boogie woogie pattern. Build up speed little by little though. You gotta learn to walk before you run here. You don't want to, you might be able to play it like this right off the bat, but make sure you're doing it so that you have the least amount of tension as possible in your shoulders. A lot of tension starts in the neck and then works its way down to the shoulders, to your back, and then eventually into your arms. So make sure you're nice and loose. Start small. If any of y'all have a metronome, I use a free app called Metro Timer. You can set your click, bum, bum, bum. You can set your click manually and then up it from there. Okay. So, going on to another boogie woogie pattern. Y'all with me? All hanging in there? Good to be here today. I've been doing a little bit of virtual teaching, and because that's what we got to do, and I hope that y'all can take what we worked on today and kind of come up with your own ideas, right? Obviously today we're working in the key of C major, but my goal for you is to take it to G major and take it to F. I sort of started off our lesson by introducing the C major scale. All right, I'm going to pull that back up real quick. All right, so there's our C major scale. All major scales have the same pattern, okay? What I mean by that is we're always going to go to a whole step above, all right? Now, if you need a refresher on what a whole step is, you go, you skip that note after the note you start on, okay? So these are all whole steps. I'm just sort of playing them together right now. So we have C to D, right? D to E, all right? We need to make sure we skip that middle note, right? So that's going to land us on a black key, and that's okay, all right? Whole steps can be a white to a white key or a black to a black key, all right? Or a white to a black key or a black to a white key, all right? Just know that this is not a whole step. This is called a half step, all right? So it's safe to say 2 half steps equal a whole step, all right? So let's go up the C major scale. We have C to D, which is a whole step, D to E, which is a whole step, all right? Next in our pattern is a half step, and then a whole step, and then a whole step, half step, all right? So whole step, whole, half, whole, half. Whole, half, whole, half. All right, that is our pattern. All righty. So if you were to take this to G major, the pattern exists there as well. G to A is a whole step. A to B, whole step. Half, all right? Whole, half. Whole, half, right? And then, okay, let's pick another key. D major. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. All right? So, you're going to use these keys to find those chords that are going to work with those chord progressions that you're working on, okay? So like the 1 chord in D major, since we were just there, is going to be D, F sharp, A, right? There's your major chord, all right? We have that F sharp in there because we have it in that key signature, all right? The C major chord, the 1 chord, as you can see over to the, let's go over to the diagram that's up on the screen. The C major scale has all white keys, all right? Therefore, you're not going to have any notes that have black keys in them unless you are to add what we call those blues notes, which we talked about. Okay, at that point, you're using your C blues scale, all right, to come up with those tasteful and colorful ways of playing, all right? So, again, let's review the boogie woogie patterns we went over. boogie woogie pattern number 2. And again, you can add this B flat in there if you'd like. It adds color, right? All right. Now I want to take that pattern. I'm switching gears a little bit because we've talked about scales a lot. We've talked about the slides. All right. Let's try to come up with different melodies or different solos. Different melodies for solos we might use over this pattern. All right. And what you might want to do to start is just pause on this C open fifth, this interval of a fifth on the C and G in the left hand, and play the C major scale on top. Again, 2, ready, go. All right. Now, let's go back to that C blues scale. We have C, E flat, F, F sharp, G, B flat, C, B flat, G, down to F sharp, F, E flat, C. Alrighty, let's play that above what we're playing in the left hand, which is the C and the G, okay? 2, ready, and... Alright, one more time. 2, ready, go. Alright, now, if you want to, you can play this rhythm as we learned it, or kind of minimize it a little bit, or if you'd like, you could just go. Alright, the most important thing here is just to get both these hands working together. Alright, it's easy to feel kind of off kilter a little bit if you haven't done exercises, hands together, or, we want to work on that, the independence of the hands, right? Because, it's no secret that the hands are both playing together, on the piano. So we want to, make that musical experience the best we can, okay? So if you want to start out with just banging the open fifth in the left hand to a steady beat while you play the right hand C blues scale, that is okay for now. All right, here we go. C blues scale, 2, ready, and. All right, I'm gonna move to our actual blues riff in the left hand while playing the C blues scale. 2, ready, go. Now, the goal here, you're going to put this in your toolbox, so y'all can come up with your own ideas at home. The goal here is to use this blues scale as well as the C major scale to come up with different melodic ideas or improvisations, okay? I want to give you all a couple ideas to hit the ground running with. Now, what I mean by combining the blues major scale and the C major scale, you might do things like this. Okay, so what I did was I used a combination of the C major scale and the blues scale together to come up with little ideas, right? Such as this. Y'all play along with me if you have a piano at home. If you want to, look back at this video, you can surely play back some of these ideas. So here we go. First idea I'm going to give y'all. Alright, I'm just sort of looping that. Alrighty, so that's our first idea. I'm going from C, E flat, and then do a slide to G. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and. If you notice, you can practice this countrified lick. Just going from your index finger to your middle finger, or your second finger to your third finger if you know your finger numbers well. And crash course in fingers at the piano. Your 1s, your 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s. Alright? 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s. Alright? So there you have it, folks. That's your crash course in finger numbers. I've been sort of yelling out finger numbers here and there, so I didn't know if we needed to review that or not. But I'm gonna use fingers 1, 2, 3, 5. Easy keasy, right? Alrighty. Now let's add in that left hand. So when you get that, obviously start slow. Like I said, learn to walk before you run. You can slow it way down. Just like that, right? And then eventually... Alright, now this riff that we started learning together... try to maybe switch up some of the rhythms. And you can add one note at a time. But remember, all I'm doing, I'm using that C blues scale that we learned earlier. Those of y'all who are just now joining us, if you want to rewind to, rewatch that C blues scale, C, E flat, F, F sharp, G, B flat, C. Alright? And obviously our C major scale. Alright, so I'm using a combination of those. Alright? If it's easier for you to keep the thumb between those changes in the left hand, that's totally cool. I always say, and some other teachers might sort of disagree with me, but I will say, fingering is debatable within reason, alright? Okay? Fingering is subjective. If this works better for you because of the strength that you have in the thumb, rather than going from index finger to thumb, that's totally cool. Most of the time, I'm actually switching between those two ideas. Only because sometimes I want to maybe add in another blues note in the left hand, which is totally cool. But if you're just doing this, for right now, you can use the thumb. If you want to practice going from index finger to thumb there, and then using it here to kind of practice that, that's totally cool. All right. Now with the fingering in the blues scale, y'all, there are a couple different fingerings that work. I can go over the one that I'm using the most. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 4, 5, or 1, 3, 5 there at the top. All right. Now all your fingerings are sort of gonna go away once you start soloing. All right. Now let's see if we can just play a couple random notes above this riff, alright? In the blues scale, okay? Here we go. Repeat after me. If you're at a piano, listen to my first idea and then repeat after me like this. And another idea. Alright, here's another idea. I start on F sharp. Play with me. Alright, so that's sort of, what I mean by, use this stuff as a toolbox of tools. Use this, and then put it into your own style. The other boogie woogie pattern that we went over, that's totally fair game for this blues scale. All right, now watch where my left hand plays. I just played the blues scale over top that idea. But if you feel like, what I wanted to get at, if you feel like your left hand's creeping up too high, you can move it down below. As well as this other idea. Might get a little muddy down there, but I tend to like to keep it here. So if you play too low, it can get a little muddy. Now you might be on a smaller keyboard, which is totally cool. You're gonna listen and feel what makes sense and hear what makes sense to what you're trying to do. All right. With this other blues idea, or this boogie woogie riff, some notes you're gonna notice are gonna sound better than others. Some notes are gonna create more dissonance than others. Like this, if you're playing it over this idea. The reason why is because you're drawing from an overall C major scale, but you're focusing on a C major 7th chord, which is this. You're drawing from individual notes of that chord while also playing individual notes in the right hand. But let me show you sort of in detail what I mean by that. This riff, that doesn't sound that bad, but if you were to go, okay, let me play sort of the same idea against an actual chord. It sounds better, like the F sharp specifically sounds better against a chord rather than against the individualized notes, if that makes sense. The reason being is because you don't hear the full harmony like you do. Rather, you hear individual notes, and one of those individual notes happens to be a G, which is right next door to the F sharp. Okay, so that's what creates that dissonance. That that doesn't sound that good. Okay, now if you were to go, sometimes if you add more notes in the right hand, it can also sound okay. But let's take the full C major chord for that matter, and just play it against this boogie woogie pattern, right? We have a full chord giving us that full harmony against these individualized notes. That's awesome. That makes perfect sense, and it sounds pretty good, right? They kind of reminded me of Happy Birthday, or Jingle Bells, I mean. You can kind of turn your Christmas songs into a little boogie woogie country style song. Let's see. So going off that idea of soloing. All right, we've talked about, things to keep in mind when we're soloing. Know what key you're in. Know what key you're in. Alrighty. And also, you can use your blues scale, alright, to kind of mix and match those ideas. All right. So let's work on a few other ideas. I'm gonna try to make this. I want y'all to see the keyboard too. We'll try to do this. If y'all need clarification, just holler in the comments. Cool. So C blues scale, right? C, E flat, F, F sharp, G, B flat, C. All right. All soloing is first, like I mentioned, know your key. All right. Know your different methods of coming up with your solos, such as using the blues scale, if that makes sense. So here's our pattern. I'm gonna go a little slower. All right. You all repeat after me. So I'm just sort of playing off specific notes from the C blues scale. Alrighty. Did you get Brent's thing? Yeah, I did. Oh. Yeah, that was my wife. What's up, Amy? Hi. She's helping me make this thing work. It's kind of a new deal working with my camera above me, and then also speaking to y'all like we're face to face, because we want to make this experience as real as possible. So thank you all for hanging with me. Again, my name's Eric Burgett. So I hope that y'all can take some of these ideas and work them into your songs. I'm going to leave you with some straight up country piano licks. We talked about boogie woogie, which is one aspect of country music, the basis of a lot of country music, that the Johnny Cash stuff, the Jerry Lee Lewis stuff, even going way back to like Jelly Roll Morton, if you're familiar with some of those names. Let's see, how do you start a chord progression for a song? Yeah, let's talk specifics about songwriting. So sometimes what I like to do is, if I'm songwriting, I'm speaking from my perspective when I songwrite. Most of the times I'm going to be singing some kind of melody in my head. There's a song that I have out. It's called Town You Never Heard Of. And, I started singing this idea. My co-writer, Dan, and I did. We were like, that place in my heart I'll always remember. Saturday bonfires burning, forever church choir singing, Sunday hallelujah. So we had that specific melody. Then we found the key that worked well with us. Like, he played guitar, I played piano, and we immediately went to key of G because that felt good where we were singing it. And I'll feel out chords that sound, pleasing to the ear underneath that melody. That place in my heart I'll always remember. Saturday bonfires burning, forever church choir singing, Sunday hallelujah. So in that instance, I had a melody before I had a chord progression. Other times I'll start with a piano idea. We talked about the chord progression. The very first chord progression we talked about today was 1, 5, 6, 4. Pretty standard chord progression in music, right? Let's see, what's the Journey song? Same chord progression, right? 1, 5, 6, 4. That chord progression is going to be the same whether you play it in C or G or D, because we're talking numbers, right? 1, 5, 6, 4. So because I've because I have that chord progression, I've played that chord progression in many different ways. Sometimes I'll gravitate to that chord progression, and then I'll come up with a melody. I might come up with a combination of those chords. It's sort of dependent upon, what you're going for in your song. You might be writing more of a ballad, and you want the chords to sometimes flow quicker, because if the song's slower, sometimes the chords are going to flow quicker. That's not always the case. Let's see, there's a song out there, same chord progression, I believe. Somebody Like You. So, for instance, there, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. I mean, it's more of a medium tempo. It's not necessarily ballad, but there's definitely some of those things there where you might want maybe the rhythm takes precedent there with those chords and kind of moves them along. And I might, before I start a song, sometimes I've started songs in so many different ways where, again, it's either the melody first, and then I'll find the chords that fit well underneath, or I'll come up with a piano riff that's, to me, sounds cool, and it might sound cool over top like a moving guitar part. There's a song I wrote called High on Her that I haven't put out yet, but there's this piano riff that I came up with, and I wanted to use that throughout the song as a whole, and I knew the chords that kind of came out of that. The 2, which is D minor in C major, right? 2, 6, walk down to the 5, walk down to the 4. All right, hopefully a lot of this stuff is kind of making sense as I talk through numbers and stuff. So talking about lyrics that come first. So because I'm more of a melody-based songwriter, and kind of go off of like what I call hooks, like, like Let It Be is a hook. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. That's just its own little hook thing, right? I'm more of that kind of writer, like where I'll come up with that little hook that can hopefully, stay in your ears. Guys like Elton John, Bernie Taupin, amazing lyrical duo partners right there, right? So Elton John was primarily the music, right? And Bernie was the lyricist. They worked together as a duo writing the lyrics, but Bernie being such a lyricist, Elton John would probably play a piano riff and to what Bernie had laid out on paper. So let's talk about that for a little bit. If you are if you're wanting to put music to just words, to words that are, they don't have any, there's no impetus, there's no like preconceived ideas melodic wise. So if I have the words, I'm looking out my window right now. It's a sunny day here in Nashville. Hopefully it's sunny where y'all are too, or you can at least imagine with me. I see green, because I'm going off visually what I see. Green grass, blue sky, trees swaying. All right, that could be kind of a line to start off with a song. That green grass, blue sky, trees swaying. All right, listen to the rhythm of those words. And that's kind of what you want to start with, is let that kind of be your guide to like coming up with your music, your chords, if you will. Green grass, blue sky, trees swaying. All right, we have green grass, blue sky, trees swaying. All right. Personally, I feel this sort of feel good flying in the breeze. So I might have a chord progression that goes, and I'm just gonna, just as an example, I'm gonna stay in the key of C because we're there. Something like this. Green grass, blue skies, trees swaying. Something like that, right? Rhythmically speaking with my chords, all right? You might even do something like kind of, it is a little harder to hear these sort of ideas on the piano because when we think country music, we think guitar, but not always the case because I'm a piano player and I'm a country artist. But I love to have like a beat going, or like if y'all use Logic or Pro Tools to come up with tracks, or I'll be with a guitar player in the room, so they'll do like the chunk, 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 chunk. They'll add more rhythm underneath what I'm playing piano wise. But let's think of another. Let's go to another rhythmic idea that kind of comes to mind. Is okay. Now listen what I do with the words here. Green grass, blue skies, trees swaying. The rhythm is sort of what really drives those lyrics, all right? Let me try working with some of those chords that we talked about in that chord progression. So we've had the 1, the 5, the 6 minor, 6, the 4. Let me try putting some of those chords underneath these words with that same rhythmic idea. Okay, here's the words. Green grass, skies, trees swaying, her eyes looking at me, something like that. And that rhythm sort of gives that a little bit of a party mode action, but all right. Most of the time I was just doing straight up triads is what we call this. Triads, group of 3 notes. All right. And if y'all know the term root position is when we have the primary note in the bottom of the chord. So if I have a C major chord, I want it in root position. We want C, E, and G, not G, C, E. That's what we call an inversion, right? And again, some of y'all might know this stuff, but this lesson, this workshop's called Easy Keezy, so I'm trying to keep it easy keezy, nice and breezy for y'all. All right. Okay, let's continue off that idea. Brett had asked the question, what about lyrics first? Okay. So if you are writing to lyrics that have already been, come up with, you might even change. It's like some of the chords might dictate what you change your lyric line to. Okay. An example of that, if I go back to my idea, green grass, blue skies, trees swaying. Okay. Let's try this. What if I say that word a different way, or say those words a different way? Green grass, blue skies, trees swaying. For me, I like it being just spoken like I would speak it. Green grass, blue skies, trees swaying. I might even speed it up. Green grass, blue skies, trees swaying. Her eyes looking at me, but that it's also gonna depend on what your writing voice is. We all come up with our own songwriting voice. We all say things in different ways, and that's the beauty of co-writing too. I love it. Let's see. Any other questions along the way with songwriting, y'all? I'm gonna keep kind of rolling with the country piano stuff for a little bit, and then we'll we'll get on with the rest of our day. Y'all can get on with the rest of your day. And again, you can always rewatch this video. Appreciate CreatiVets having me. In that songwriting idea that I just went over, I was kind of doing a thing. It's another hammer action. Okay, so what I was doing specifically on a C major chord, think of your C major chord like this. Take out the bottom note, the C, and replace it with the D with your second finger. All right, and just play it for a short, quick bit on the way to the E. All right, if that makes sense, right? The D to the E. You're hammering that E, but you want to essentially play the D as a grace note. All right, so there's your, primary country lick right there, and that's useful over top a 1 chord. Okay, you can use it over any chord, but let's say you can use it over any major chord. If I were to use it over a minor chord, it still sounds pretty good, but you're gonna want to use it, don't overuse it. You can easily go. That's an example of kind of overusing that idea. Okay, so there's your hammer pattern on the piano, your country hammer piano lick. All right, let's go to a familiar tune where you might use that. Let's see. Let's do this one. I mentioned it earlier. Let It Be by the Beatles, by John Lennon, right? All right, let's do this. Right there, okay? So that's an example of using that country piano lick over top, that tune, all right? And again, you can overuse them, but there's different ways to incorporate them in your music. Let's see. Any other questions, y'all? Play Skechers by... I'm sorry, I don't know that one. I can take a rain check, though, if that's cool. So just to recap, y'all, and again, you can rewind this video and watch as many times as you want. We went over C major scale, and I went over the fingering too, if you want to start incorporating that. It's a great way to warm up at the piano and get your technique going. Here's your C major or C blues scale. We talked about ways to improvise over it. My suggestion is to start with small little riffs, little ideas, and then expand on those, okay? Using a combination of the C major and the C blues scale, all right? We went over some left-hand blues, boogie-woogie riffs, right? And this one. We talked about chord progressions, and we talked about inversions with those chords too. Here's your 1 chord with the bass in the left hand, the octaves. Here's your root position triad. Okay, if I were to go to an inversion of that, I move this bottom note to the top and this bottom note to the top, and there's your 3 positions of a C major chord. You can do that on a G major chord as well. All right. So y'all, I hope that you can incorporate a lot of these ideas into your own songwriting. You know, music has always been a way for me to release, to get creative and just be in my own place, right? And if y'all would like to, you can always reach out to me on Facebook, Eric Burgett. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, Eric Burgett Music, Burgett. And CreatiVets, y'all been awesome. Brett, Richard, Casper, thank y'all so much for having me. I'm going to leave y'all with a tune that it's one of the first tunes I put out when I moved here to Nashville. One of the tunes that represents where I came from, and that's a little farm town in central Illinois. And this one's called Town You Never Heard of. And I'm going to try to use some of these country licks that we talked about, these blues licks, so y'all can kind of see them in action, all right? Here we go. That place in my heart I'll always remember. Saturday bonfires burning, forever church choir singing, Sunday hallelujah. Well, there's one church town where the air is sweet. I spend weekend nights at the Dairy Queen and in the tailgate lights with all my friends, praying summertime would never end, and the beer tastes better bought with my fake ID. And that cashier knew damn well that my name ain't Steve. That place in my heart I'll always remember. Saturday bonfires burning, forever church choir singing, Sunday hallelujah. Sun rolling over acres of farmland, shining the light on the world I grew up in. No name, dirt roads about to get tore up, all going down in a town you never heard of. That place in my heart I'll always remember. Saturday bonfires burning, forever church choir singing, Sunday hallelujah. If y'all really want to end your piece with a showstopper, just take your finger, turn it sideways, and go like that. All right, y'all. Thank you. My name's Eric Burgett. Thank you, CreatiVets. Thank y'all for all your donations out there to CreatiVets, and let's keep it going. Let's share CreatiVets with everybody. And veterans, thank you all for your service. God bless y'all. Have a good one.